Before wealth ever reaches your hands, God will first look into your heart. He doesn't measure your readiness by your bank account. He measures it by your ability to be faithful with what you already have. So many people pray for millions while ignoring the small opportunities to steward the hundreds they already possess. But God's principle never changes. If you can't be trusted with little, you won't be trusted with much. Every small test, every moment of discipline, every act of obedience is preparing you for the greater that's coming. God is watching how you treat what you have right now. He's watching your attitude, your gratitude, and your stewardship. Because wealth in the wrong hands is a weapon, but in the right hands it's a ministry. When God tests you with little, He's not being cruel, He's being wise. He wants to make sure your heart won't worship the money more than the Maker. He wants to know if your joy is anchored in His presence, not in possessions. If your peace can survive when your pockets are empty, then He knows you're ready to handle overflow. Many people say, "God, bless me with abundance," but they ignore the character it takes to sustain that abundance. That's why before promotion, there must be proving. Before increase, there must be integrity. God will test your motives before He releases the money. He wants to see if your desire for wealth is rooted in greed or in purpose. Will you use it to uplift yourself, or will you use it to build His kingdom? God's testing ground often comes disguised as inconvenience. He'll let you walk through seasons where you have just enough, not because He forgot your prayer, but because He's training your perspective. If you can praise Him with little, you'll honor Him with much. If you can be diligent when nobody sees your work, you'll be faithful when everyone's watching. Those who pass the test of smallness are the ones who can carry greatness without losing their soul. That's why He doesn't bless you immediately when you ask, because He's still building you internally for what's coming externally. You may feel overlooked, but in truth, you're being observed. Heaven is watching how you handle the waiting. Understand this: God is not in a hurry to make you rich. He's focused on making you ready. You see, wealth without wisdom leads to waste. He wants you to know that what you're building with Him must outlast you. So He teaches you to manage your time, your words, your attitude, and your resources before multiplying them. You might not see it now, but every delay is a divine strategy. The frustration you feel today is forming the discipline you'll need tomorrow. The lessons you learn in lack are the very ones that will sustain you in abundance. So stop asking, "God, when?" and start declaring, "God, prepare me." Because when your character catches up to your calling, nothing can stop what's coming. God is not withholding wealth from you. He's protecting you from what you're not yet ready to carry. But once He sees you can be trusted when you're faithful in the dark, generous in the struggle, and obedient in the small, that's when doors will open without you forcing them. Opportunities will chase you down, and divine connections will find you. God will say, "Now you're ready, my child. You've passed the test." And when that moment comes, you'll realize that the waiting wasn't a setback. It was a setup for something greater than you ever imagined. Faith is the currency of heaven. Before God brings increase, He must know that your faith is stronger than your fear. It's easy to believe when the bank account is full, when the doors are open, and when people are cheering you on. But true faith is forged in the fire of uncertainty, when nothing makes sense, when the numbers don't add up, and when all you have left is a whisper from God saying, "Trust me." That's where real faith is proven. God doesn't test your faith to break you. He tests it to build you. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door is an invitation for your faith to grow roots deep enough to withstand any storm that comes with success. Because if your faith is shallow, the weight of your blessing will crush you. But if your faith is strong, it will carry you into every promise God made. When God tests your faith, He will often do it through silence. There will be moments when it feels like He's not answering, not moving, not hearing. But silence doesn't mean absence. It means he's watching to see if you'll still trust him when there's no confirmation, no sign, and no applause. It's in those silent seasons that your faith matures. That's when you learn to lean not on your feelings, but on his word. You start saying, even when I don't see it, I believe it. Even when I don't feel it, I trust it. That's the kind of faith that opens impossible doors. God wants you to have faith that doesn't depend on the evidence, but on the promise. Because miracles don't manifest in comfort, they're born in faith. Sometimes, the test of faith will come in the form of waiting. Waiting for the promise to be fulfilled, for the prayer to be answered, for the vision to come to life. Waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. It's God's way of strengthening your spiritual muscles. Each day of waiting teaches you to depend on him more deeply, to pray more boldly, and to worship more sincerely. The longer the wait, the greater the reward. When you come out of that waiting season, you won't just have what you prayed, for you'll have the maturity to sustain it. You'll look back and realize that every delay was divine, every setback was strategic, and every no was a necessary step toward your yes. Faith is not pretending everything is perfect. It's believing that even when things fall apart, God is still in control. It's standing on his promises when everything around you is shaking. It's saying, God, I don't understand it, but I still trust you. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith unlocks blessings that logic can't explain. That's the faith God is looking for, faith that doesn't crumble under pressure, faith that praises in pain, faith that walks forward when the path isn't clear. Because when your faith stands firm in the storm, you prove to heaven that you're ready for the blessing that comes after it. So if you're in a season where your faith is being tested, don't panic, rejoice. You're being prepared for promotion. God is showing you that faith isn't just a word, it's a weapon. It's the bridge between your current situation and your coming breakthrough. Keep trusting when others give up. Keep believing when others doubt. Because when God sees that your faith hasn't wavered, that your hope hasn't died, and that your praise hasn't stopped, he will open the heavens over your life. And when the blessing finally comes, you'll realize it wasn't just about the wealth, it was about the faith you built along the way. That faith will sustain you far longer than any fortune ever could. Patience is not just the ability to wait, it's how you behave while you're waiting. Before wealth comes, God will test your patience to see if you can handle the weight of his blessings. Many people pray for abundance, but aren't ready for the process that prepares them for it. God doesn't bless impatience because impatience reveals immaturity. If you can't wait for the promise, you won't know how to protect it when it arrives. That's why God allows certain seasons to stretch longer than you expect. He's refining you, not denying you. Every delay is designed to develop your discipline, and every not yet from God is shaping your character. Patience is the furnace where faith is purified and purpose is solidified. When God tests your patience, he's not trying to frustrate you, he's trying to fit you for the future he's already planned. There's a reason God doesn't answer all your prayers immediately, because quick blessings without preparation often lead to quick destruction. You might think you're ready, but God knows the weight of the wealth you've been praying for. He knows that unmanaged blessings can become burdens. That's why he slows things down, allowing you to grow into the person who can handle what's coming. You can't rush divine timing. The process you're resisting is the very process that's protecting you. Every moment of waiting builds endurance. Every closed door teaches wisdom. Every test of patience proves that you trust God's plan more than your own schedule. The waiting room of God is not wasted time. It's the place where champions are formed, where faith is strengthened, and where future kings and queens are trained for the throne. Impatience is the enemy of destiny. It makes you act before God moves. It convinces you to settle for less because you don't want to wait for more. But when you learn to be still, when you learn to say, God, I trust your timing even when I don't understand your methods. Something powerful happens, peace takes over. You stop striving and start resting. You stop chasing and start receiving. The moment you stop forcing doors open and let God open them in His time, the blessings that come will be permanent, not temporary. What's delayed is not denied. The very thing you're waiting for is waiting for you too, but it's waiting for you to mature, to trust, and to grow strong enough to handle it. Patience is the mark of spiritual maturity. It's the sign that you've shifted from God, when will you do it, to God, I know you will do it. You no longer need proof to believe. Your heart already knows His promise is true. That's the kind of patience that produces miracles. When you stop complaining about the wait and start thanking God in the middle of it, you activate the power of divine timing. What once felt like a delay suddenly becomes divine alignment. The doors that seemed locked will swing open, not by your effort, but by His favor. You'll realize that God wasn't late, He was right on time, preparing the right opportunity, the right people, and the right season for your breakthrough. So don't despise the waiting season, embrace it. This is where your strength is being built, your mindset is being sharpened, and your future is being secured. Every second you remain patient in faith, you're proving to God that you're ready for more. And when your patience meets His perfect timing, the wealth, success, and blessings that come will not only overflow, they'll last. Because you didn't just receive them through prayer, you earned them through patience. Before wealth comes, God will test your obedience, not your words, but your actions. Many people say they trust God, but true obedience is proven when His instructions make no sense. When God tells you to move when everything looks still, or to give when you feel like you have nothing left, that's where the test begins. Obedience is not convenient, it's costly. It requires you to lay down your will, silence your logic, and move in faith. God doesn't test your obedience to punish you, He tests it to promote you. He wants to see if you'll still follow Him when you don't understand Him. Because before He can trust you with increase, He must know you'll listen when He whispers. He must know you'll still obey when the reward isn't immediate. When you study the great people of faith in the Bible, Abraham, Moses, Noah, Joseph, every one of them was tested in obedience before elevation. God told Abraham to leave his home without knowing the destination. That was obedience. He told Noah to build an ark before rain had ever fallen. That was obedience. He told Moses to go back to Pharaoh, the very man who wanted him dead, and demand freedom for his people. That was obedience. Every miracle, every breakthrough, every promotion was born out of one act of radical obedience, and the same is true for you. You can't expect divine wealth if you ignore divine instruction. God's blessings flow through obedience, not convenience. The moment you decide to obey God fully, even when it stretches you, heaven begins to align every resource, every person, and every opportunity to support your next season. Obedience unlocks doors that hustle never could. You can grind all day, but one act of obedience can produce results that years of effort cannot. Sometimes God's instruction will seem unreasonable: to forgive someone who hurt you deeply, to sow into something that seems impossible, to walk away from something you thought you needed. But every time you obey, you plant a seed that grows into supernatural favor. Your obedience is not for God's benefit, it's for yours. It's the currency of the kingdom, the proof that you trust Him completely. When God sees that you're willing to obey even when it costs you comfort, He knows you're ready to handle the abundance He's prepared. There will be moments when obedience feels like loss. You might give when you wanted to save, or walk away when you wanted to stay. But what looks like loss in the natural is positioning you for multiplication in the spiritual. God never asks you to release something unless He plans to replace it with something greater. Your act of obedience may feel small, but it carries the power to shift your entire destiny. One yes to God can break generations of struggle, delay, and limitation. It can open the floodgates of favor that have been waiting for your agreement. So don't delay your obedience. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Move when God says move, even if your mind doesn't understand. Because the miracle is often on the other side of your obedience. The test of obedience is really a test of trust. Do you trust that God knows better than you? Do you trust that His instructions, though uncomfortable, are leading you to abundance? If you do, then you'll see blessings flow like never before. God will take you places your qualifications couldn't, open doors your connections couldn't, and bless you in ways your logic couldn't explain. All because you chose to obey. When you pass the test of obedience, you prove to heaven that you're not just chasing blessings, you're following the blesser. And that's when wealth, favor, and divine success will follow you without you having to chase them. Before wealth comes, God will test your patience. The waiting season is one of the hardest trials you will ever face, not because God is absent, but because He is silent while He works behind the scenes. Patience is not just about waiting, it's about how you behave while you wait. Many people pray for blessings but fail the waiting test. They get frustrated when the breakthrough doesn't arrive on their timeline. They start doubting God, complaining, or comparing their journey to others. But when God delays, He's not denying He's developing. He's building the strength, maturity, and endurance you'll need to handle what's coming. Wealth without patience becomes a weapon that destroys you. That's why God will test your waiting posture before He releases His abundance. Patience refines your faith. When you can remain calm, peaceful, and faithful, even when nothing seems to change, you prove to God that your trust is not conditional. That's when you move from believing in His blessings to believing in His character. Think of Joseph. He had a dream of greatness, but he spent years in a pit, in slavery, and in prison before he ever touched the palace. Every delay was shaping his wisdom, his humility, and his discernment. If Joseph had given up halfway, he would have missed the fulfillment of the promise. The waiting room is not a punishment, it's preparation. God uses waiting to burn away impatience, pride, and immaturity, so that when your time comes, you won't sabotage the blessing with unprepared character. In the waiting season, God hides you for a reason. He's not withholding, He's protecting. Sometimes He won't let certain opportunities, relationships, or platforms come early because premature exposure could crush you. Just like gold must go through fire before it shines, your faith must go through seasons of stillness before it's strong enough to carry abundance. Patience teaches you that you don't need to see movement to know God is moving. It teaches you to trust His timing, not your calendar. It teaches you to rest in His promises, even when there's no evidence in sight. When you learn to wait well, you show heaven that you can be trusted with increase. Because the same patience it takes to wait for wealth is the same patience it takes to manage it. People who rush the process often lose the blessing because they never built the foundation to sustain it. But those who wait with grace, who worship in the waiting, who stay grateful when doors are closed, those are the ones who receive double for their trouble. God never wastes waiting. Every moment of delay is filled with divine purpose. He's aligning the right people, setting up the right opportunities, and preparing your heart for the magnitude of what's coming. So don't despise the wait. Don't assume God has forgotten you. He hasn't. He's preparing you. Every time you choose faith over frustration, patience over panic, you pass the test. And when that test is complete, God will move suddenly. The doors that were closed will open all at once. The opportunities that seemed far away will chase you down. And you'll realize that every silent season was actually a setup for your sudden breakthrough. Patience is the bridge between prayer and promise, and those who cross it will walk into blessings that will blow their minds. Before wealth comes, God will test your ability to stay humble when the blessings begin to flow. This is one of the most overlooked but most critical tests before divine promotion. Many people can worship while they're waiting, but few can stay humble when they start winning. God will sometimes give you small victories, little breakthroughs, and open doors just to see how you handle them. Will you give him glory, or will you give yourself the credit? Will you stay grounded, or will pride creep into your heart? The truth is, pride has destroyed more destinies than poverty ever could. Pride makes you forget who your source is, while humility keeps you anchored to the one who made it all possible. When God begins to elevate you, he watches to see if you still kneel before him in gratitude. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's remembering that no matter how high you rise, you are still nothing without the breath of God sustaining you. Before he releases greater wealth, God will make sure that success doesn't become your new idol. He will test whether you can handle abundance without arrogance, because true promotion doesn't just expose your strength, it exposes your heart. Many people pray for increase, but God knows that increase without humility is a disaster waiting to happen. That's why he refines your spirit before releasing your riches. He'll let you walk through seasons where you depend on him for every provision, so that when prosperity comes, you'll never forget who provided it. Look at King David. Even when he became powerful and wealthy, he remained a worshiper. He knew every victory, every crown, every piece of gold came from God's hand. That's what made him a man after God's own heart. Compare that to Saul, who let pride ruin what God gave him. Saul started humble, but ended up destroyed by his own ego. That's why God tests the heart before he blesses the hands. He's not just preparing to trust you with wealth, he's preparing to trust you with influence, with responsibility, with legacy. And that requires a spirit that stays low even when life takes you high. When God promotes you, stay planted. When he blesses you, stay grateful. When he multiplies you, keep your focus on him, not on the blessing. Remember, every resource, every opportunity, every connection is temporary, but the source is eternal. Wealth is a tool, it's not your identity. The moment you start worshiping the gift more than the giver, you risk losing both. That's why God will always keep you in check, not to punish you, but to protect you from self-destruction. So when the promotion comes, when the money flows, when the opportunities multiply, don't forget the God who made it happen. Use your blessings to bless others. Speak life, lift others up, give back, and remain a vessel of divine purpose. The more you stay humble, the more God can trust you with, because humility invites more grace, and grace attracts greater glory. The test of humility is not about how you act when you have nothing. It's about how you respond when you have everything. Pass that test, and God will not only bless you, he'll make you a blessing to the world.